The Xbox One is the world's most powerful console, the world's most expensive console, and the world's least desired console all at the same time. From the big picture, the first year of the Xbox One X has been celebrated with kept promises and even more hopes for the future. But let's take a look at the Xbox One X and see if it was a worthwhile purchase or a dust collector with no games. It's been a full year with the world's most powerful console. It launched during the most turbulent time for Xbox, with two of the lowest rated exclusives and a perpetually delayed first-party title. The Xbox One X was supposed to be accompanied by the explosive, colorful Crackdown 3, but instead it was postponed, leaving the christening of the world's most powerful console running Super Lucky's Tale and the poorly optimized eyesore, Players Unknown Battlegrounds. Microsoft promised early on the Xbox One X would offer true uncompromised 4K, and many had their guesses and assumptions of what that meant. At that time, the PS4 Pro had already been proven wrong that it could not provide 4K, even though Sony had vaguely promised it would. The true definition of uncompromised 4K meant that devs would not have to lower the quality of their games to achieve 4K visuals on the Xbox One X. All throughout the first year of the X, it continued to prove the claim was honest, as big AAA games hit the 4K mark, oftentimes being described as equal to high PC settings by the experts. This was doubtful for many on a $500 console. The Xbox One X definitely has the power and the pipeline under the hood, but did it have the games? Thankfully, Multiplats showcased the power of the X in the absence of their first-party titles. Gamers understood that 80% or more of their games they played each year were not exclusives. Nothing could prove the heart of the X better than the sun-drenched high fidelity of Assassin's Creed Origins, running at near native 4K. Nothing looked sharper, running at around 80 to 90% of 4K, while the competitor on the PS4 Pro ran it at around 50 to 60% of 4K. Resolution isn't everything, and Bayek's adventure across Egypt is one of the generation's most detailed and gorgeous open-world games. Then came Star Wars Battlefront 2. It was shrouded in controversy with loot crates, but that didn't stop the game from stunning visually on the Xbox One X. It ran at 88 to 100% of native 4K 60 on the Frostbite engine. The game looked as crisp and clear as anyone with a great PC could expect. Then Forza Motorsport 7, which was already set for the X, on day one ran at high settings at native 4K 60. Super Lucky's Tale also hit that high watermark, but that's not much to brag about. But id's Wolfenstein New Colossus was several notches visually above the 2014 New Order and looks incredible on the Xbox One X. It runs at nearly 90% of native 4K 60. Many doubted that the big developers would even support the X. The X would be the smallest install base behind the PS4, the Pro, and the Xbox One S. Even if they did support the X, even leaders like Sony's Jim Ryan said that the support and attention would favor the PS4 because of its large install base. Experts were wrong. The X enhancements grew to 250 before the year end. Older games like Gears of War 4, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Witcher 3 got native 4K enhancements and even 60 FPS performance modes. By the end of the X's first year, the list of games that hit native 4K reached almost 115. Early in the year, Ubisoft's open-world Far Cry 5 hit the Xbox One X and shook the unbelievers by being the first AAA third-party title to hit a fixed native 4K. The game was a gorgeous sight and impressed critics, and outside of the PC, the X was the place to play Far Cry 5. Things were looking up for the Xbox One X until Sea of Thieves hit the docks. The game ran at the promised native 4K, and the water looked absolutely amazing. The simplified art style didn't help a simple game concept devoid of substance and depth. Many enjoyed the game for a week and felt ultimately let down. And the same echoes came for State of Decay 2. Both games scored D+ and become the continuing reputation for the Xbox console, which had already suffered a poor 2017 with just Halo Wars 2 and the carryover of Forza 7. This downturn for Microsoft was magnified by the juggernaut God of War and much better than average Detroit Become Human that season. But a bit of foreshadowing came in the form of Red Dead Redemption, already backward compatible on the Xbox One, was enhanced to a native full 4K with 16 times texture filtering. Rockstar's 8-year-old masterpiece looked so incredible on the X, it passed as a true, faithful remaster. And if you've already owned it, it was totally free. In fact, over 30 backward compatibility titles from the original Xbox to the Xbox 360 got native 4K support on the Xbox One X. Those that weren't, the X was fully compatible with all 500 back-compat games, and every single one of them received automatic performance benefits running at stable frame rates. Summertime marked the halfway point for the Xbox One X, but it was still selling well, despite the lack of compelling new first-party content. After all, the appeal of a console reaches beyond just the exclusives, and the Xbox One X offered literally everything over the competition, with faster load times on every game, a remarkable game DVR boasting native 4K 60 HDR game capture with the highest quality. The X came with an Ultra HD Blu-ray player for those that want to watch disc-based movies and avoid data caps streaming with lower bit rates. All of the sound in the X truly surrounds you with Dolby Atmos and the best HDR color gamut with Dolby Vision, exclusive to the Xbox One. Rounding out the fact that everything plays better on the Xbox One X, Microsoft impressed many publishers and developers with the tech and power behind the X and their R&D team. At E3 2018, CD Projekt Red chose the Microsoft stage to showcase Cyberpunk 2077, knowing that the Xbox One X would be the preferred console to play their creation. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was another showcase on the X, impressing the developers able to get the game running at near native 4K in the open world, and offering a performance mode at 60 FPS. Shadow of the Tomb Raider shined on the X and continued to cement the world's most powerful console as the place to play most everything. Still, most people were buying PS4s, and Sony boasted 86 million sold, repeating the momentum of the PS2 in the early 2000s. About the time that Spider-Man was swinging its way across the PS4, Xbox was gearing up for Forza Horizon 4. While Sony studios were leveraging checkerboarding and temporal injection scaling adjacent pixels to fill 4K screens, Microsoft's talented Playground Games was delivering a native 4K Forza Horizon 4 in the open world, and surprised the remainder of doubters with a 60 FPS mode in HD. Forza Horizon 4 became the generation's best rated racing game. 1 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, yeah, not so great. Microsoft still needed a massive new IP to showcase on the X, but the world's biggest games were stunning eyes and ears all year long on the X. Before the Xbox One X could celebrate its year anniversary, the biggest game of the generation, Red Dead Redemption 2, came to Xbox and PS4. It bowled over critics with a native 4K presentation only on the Xbox One X, boasting the X as the best place to play Rockstar's latest masterpiece.
Guess they'll just listen for the explosion.
What do we say, huh?
Red Dead 2 was bigger, better, and more comprehensive than the last game, and looked incredibly wonderful on the world's most powerful console, proving for the 50th time that the X is truly 2 times more powerful than the PS4 Pro, even convincing some prominent industry professionals to ditch hours of gameplay on the PS4 Pro to experience the game on the Xbox One X. It was a hard pill to swallow to play everything on the Xbox One X and leave 2 to 4 big yearly exclusives to a PS4. Next year, BioWare's Anthem is reportedly running at close to native 4K in the open world. Rage 2, an open-world first-person shooter, will likely run at a dynamic 4K 60. Devil May Cry 5 and Dying Light 2 are also supposed to run at 4K 60, most likely dynamic at 70 to 80% of native 4K. Gears 5 is also supposed to run at 4K 60 according to the Coalition's Rod Ferguson. Again, most likely a dynamic 4K. I'm predicting 70 to 80% of native 4K at 60 FPS, which no matter how many excuses you'll hear or make, that is impressive for $500 tech from 2017. In fact, in the US, the Xbox is seeing the highest growth out of the three main consoles, and the X has been selling phenomenally according to the NPD. The industry has definitely embraced the X with their games, and it's good to hear that Microsoft plans to fully support the X into the beginning of the next generation. The Xbox One X is smaller, quieter, and more powerful, and offered almost everything more than the competition. Xbox Game Pass, with over 150 games for $10 a month, 500 backward compatible games downloaded and installed for no additional charge. EA access for Battlefield, FIFA, and Madden fans. The best way to capture and share your gameplay at 4K, the industry's best sound and sight with Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. All of the best multi-platform games look and play better on the X, and thanks to Play Anywhere and the upcoming streaming service xCloud, Xbox Live is the best place to play the majority of your games. And if you're traditionalists, the Xbox One X is absolutely worth the asking price. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for watching. When I sat down to work out this video, it felt like my review of the X in November of last year was just yesterday. I've gained about 15,000 gamer scores since I returned to consoles from a 2-year PC gaming phase. Back then in late 2015, I was tired of the look of Xbox visuals and performance, so I built a PC to play most of my games at a higher fidelity. Along the way, I added a PS4 to my gaming space, and while I enjoyed the first year of the Xbox One X, I also thoroughly enjoyed Uncharted 4, God of War, and Spider-Man on PS4. And now, we're all quite literally in the middle of this generation's golden era with Red Dead Redemption 2 and the upcoming onslaught of the spring 2019 games. If you've enjoyed this video and maybe thought a little of the Xbox One X and had a bit of your mind changed, let me know in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of gaming content. I create documentary style productions. Well, I think they're like documentaries. About once a week. They take several hours, but I want information to be enjoyable to watch. And if you have any questions, my DMs are open on Twitter and Xbox at Colteastwood. Have a great week. I'll see some of you in Red Dead 2 online. So when you're out there in the open prairie or in the comment section, please be nice.